Oh, hi, Sarah. Welcome to Jemijo. My name is Jennifer Hardiman, CIPD membership number 46978787. I'm a people advisor here at Jemijo. Thank you for taking the time to apply and meet with me today. Today, I'd like to learn a bit more about you, assess your fit for the role, and answer any questions that you might have. Please note that this interview will be recorded for training purposes, and all information will be stored in compliance with GDPR 2018. And I'll be taking notes throughout just to make sure that I don't miss any important details. Are you ready to begin?
Yeah.
Feel free to take your time with the responses. There's no need to rush. So, what attracted you to this role at this time, and what do you find interesting about this job?
Hi. Well, what really attracted me to this role is that it covers all aspects of the employee life cycle. Having recently obtained my BA in Human Resources Management, I'm keen to gain experience in all aspects of HR. As a large organisation employing more than 2,500 staff, I would imagine that Jemijo HR team would have a wide range of complex employment-related cases to work through, and supporting the team to resolve these would be an excellent opportunity for me to develop my knowledge, skills and experience.
We do get quite the range of cases here at Jemijo. Thank you. Can you give us some background information about your current HR and payroll experience to date, and what sort of key roles and responsibilities have you taken on?
While I've not had any previous HR roles, I have gained a strong theoretical foundation in employment law and organisational behaviours from my studies. I've developed skills through various projects, for example, the theoretical implementation of a new HRIS, where I managed data migration strategy and user training protocols.
Oh, yes.
This project really helped instill the importance of data integrity and accuracy. And in my final year, we had the opportunity to experience a simulated payroll audit exercise where I had to apply my knowledge of pay, taxes and deductions. It was designed to assess my attention to detail when it comes to identifying errors, fraud and compliance gaps, and my practical skills in judgment, data analysis and reporting. And throughout my course, I conducted thorough research, analysing case studies relating to disciplinary and grievances and presenting resolutions aligning with standard HR best practice. I also analysed employee turnover data and produced reports and presentations using this data. So thinking about roles and responsibilities, I have acted as a HR advisor in case studies simulations, giving me an idea of what is involved. Plus, I have participated in recruitment campaigns where my role included drafting job descriptions and developing assessment exercises for a mock assessment centre. I've also led several project teams where I had to make sure all the documentation was in line with course requirements and juggle competing deadlines, which I believe gives me a good foundation for learning further on the job skills.
Well, that's a really great overview of your studies and project experience. Thank you. It sounds like you've got a strong theoretical grasp of core HR functions. How would you specifically apply this experience in the day-to-day role of a people assistant here at Jemijo?
Well, I think the theoretical knowledge I've gained from my degree is directly transferable to the practical tasks of a people assistant. For instance, my project on HRIS implementation taught me the importance of accurate data entry and maintaining confidentiality, which is essential when updating employee records in Jemijo's HRIS. It's important to remember that this data relates to real people with real lives, so it's essential to get this right. When dealing with account queries or claims, I would apply my understanding of HR best practice and employment law to ensure we are compliant and fair in our advice and actions. And my simulated payroll audit experience means I understand payroll-related tasks like checking deductions or processing starters leavers, and I would approach this with keen attention to detail and an eye for compliance. Also, my experience analysing staff turnover data and producing reports means I can contribute immediately to any reporting requirements of the people team, helping to make sense of the data so we can plan the best course of action to take. I'm confident in applying my knowledge to the day-to-day administration and supportive duties of the role.
Excellent, thank you. So how do you keep up to date with the latest HR and payroll policies and employment law? Please give me an example of a recent update and how you learnt about it.
Okay, I have several ways to stay current. I subscribe to official government and regulatory bodies such as the government.uk employment law updates and the ACAS newsletter. I also regularly check industry news sources, for example, the CIPD website and various HR publications, and I follow leading HR and employment law firms such as Stone King and Sharp Pritchard for for online webinars. My university also provided access to legal database, and I'm still in touch with my course mates, and we share resources and discuss changes. A recent significant update I learned about was the change concerning the calculation of holiday pay for the part-year and irregular hours workers, following the 2022 Supreme Court ruling in Harper Trust versus Brazil. I learned about this initially through an email alert from my CIPD student membership, which I then followed up with a detailed webinar hosted by an employment law firm I follow. So the update essentially overturned the use of the 12.07% method for these specific worker groups, meaning that employers have to calculate holiday entitlement based on a 52-week reference period, excluding weeks where no work was performed. This is a crucial change for an organisation like Jemijo, as the majority of your staff work in a call centre on a rotational shift basis.
That's right. Yes, thank you. How do you think you might put this particular update into practice at Jemijo?
Okay, that's a tough one. I think I would start by perhaps conducting an audit of existing contracts and pay practices to identify any staff who had not been paid their holiday pay correctly. Then we would need to determine what they should have been paid. Senior leadership would need to approve any pay adjustments, and we would then communicate this to the staff involved. Then we would need to make sure our policies and practices were updated to prevent future errors occurring.
That's a great answer, thanks. Can you give me an example of when you have shown initiative whilst working in a team environment, and how do you think you can contribute positively to our team?
Okay, during my final year at university, I was part of a team project tasked with reviewing and proposing improvements for the student experience in the HR degree programme. So I took the initiative to propose a focused approach, and I designed and implemented a short anonymous survey using Google Forms to gather specific information from a large sample of students across all 3 years. The data collected meant we had an excellent window into the student experience and helped us propose improvements as a team. I think I'm a proactive and solution-focused team member. I'm highly organised and keen to take ownership of tasks to support the team and Jemijo.
Great. And what was the result of your contribution to this team, and would you have done anything differently?
Well, the data we collected highlighted 2 key areas for improvement: the need for more practical workshops around current relevant HR software, and better communication regarding future employment opportunities. Our team presented these findings to the programme leader. They accepted our recommendations, and I heard that the university implemented monthly HR in practice workshops this academic year. My designing and analysing the survey was important in gaining the necessary information to present these improvements. If I were to do anything differently, I would have perhaps involved the programme leader earlier in the survey design process in case they had any suggestions around the survey, although the eventual outcome was still good.
That sounds great. Okay, so what experience do you have of producing costing and statistics for reports?
During my degree, analysing HR-related data sets was a regular task for most projects set to us. For example, we were set a project focused on employee turnover, where I had to calculate the cost of replacement for leavers by factoring in recruitment expenses, onboarding time, and lost productivity. Then I translated the data into statistical reports to present to a hypothetical senior leadership team. I also used Excel extensively during my simulated payroll audit to run statistical checks, such as calculating pay for different employee groups and flagging any outliers that could indicate errors. I'm comfortable using Excel and confident in producing accurate statistical summaries and cost implications for reports.
You've clearly developed a solid foundation in reporting. Thank you. So the people team here works with tight, specific deadlines. Can you give us an example of a situation where there were competing priorities? What actions did you take, and what was the outcome?
Okay, so during my final year of my degree, I had 3 major commitments competing for my time: completing my final dissertation, managing a part-time job at Argos, and leading the student experience review team project that I just mentioned. All 3 had non-negotiable deadlines. The dissertation, being the highest priority for me, received blocks of dedicated time early in the mornings. I then used an Eisenhower matrix approach to categorise the project tasks focusing on important but not urgent activities like data analysis and report drafting first, scheduling these around my work shifts. I communicated clearly with my manager at my retail job about my study deadlines in case I needed some flexibility with my shifts. And with my project team members, I delegated specific data collection tasks so I could focus on the analysis and reports. The action I took was structuring my time, prioritising the commitments, and communicating this clearly to relevant people. And the outcome was that I submitted my dissertation on time, the team project report was delivered successfully, and I didn't miss any shifts at work. I needed a holiday afterwards, though.
Yeah, I can imagine. What experience do you have of the end-to-end recruitment process? Do you have any experience with assessment centres, for example?
So, as I previously mentioned, I participated in a recruitment campaign from start to finish as part of my course. I've had experience drafting job descriptions and person specifications, designing competency-based interview questions, shortlisting, and also developing content for a mock assessment centre. This was really relevant as it was based on a large organisation with high volume recruitment, which must reflect similar strategies to that your team must adopt when recruiting to call centre roles. Assessment centres are so useful for evaluating candidates' practical skills beyond a standard interview scenario, and provide consistency and fairness when assessing large numbers of candidates. So although I haven't done this in a workplace environment, I believe I would have the relevant knowledge and skills to support this process efficiently, and I'm keen to gain practical hands-on experience.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, how would you ensure maintenance of confidential or sensitive staff information in line with data protection legislation?
So it is extremely important from an ethical and legal standpoint for both Jemijo and the individual staff members to maintain confidentiality and comply with GDPR legislation. During my course, I've studied the core principles of this legislation, such as how to process and store information, ensuring that any information kept is in line with requirements and expressly communicated to the individuals involved. In the role of HR, we have access to the most sensitive data and must ensure that we follow procedure, guaranteeing any information we hold is only accessed on a need-to-know basis. It's important to ensure all files are secure, either under lock and key if it's a physical file, or password protected if digital. And another point to bear in mind is retention and disposal policies, and making sure any information on record is destroyed in a timely fashion with regular checks to ensure compliance. It's always worth having a double checking process to minimise error. It's also worth double checking emails that contain sensitive information before sending them to make sure they're going to the right person, and to be aware when having a conversation, either over the phone or in person, of who might be within earshot. If I were unsure about any data handling procedure, I would check with my line manager first.
Right. Okay, what do you understand about Jemijo's commitment to ensuring equality of opportunity and diversity in its workforce, and why do you think that might be important?
Well, as I understand it, for a company like Jemijo with such a large workforce, equality and diversity is fundamental. It basically means that all staff and potential staff are treated fairly and given equal access to opportunities regardless of protected characteristics such as age, gender, race, or religion. This commitment actively fosters a diverse workforce where different perspectives and backgrounds are valued. This is essential from a legal and ethical standpoint as a responsible employer complying with the Equality Act, but it also means that the workforce tends to be more innovative and have higher levels of engagement and retention, which is a competitive advantage. With over 5 million customers, Jemijo benefits from this as your workforce will reflect your customer base, hopefully meeting their diverse needs.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. So we rely heavily on our HRIS to manage employee data. Can you describe your experience with data entry and maintaining accurate records, particularly when handling sensitive information or when you might be under pressure?
Okay. Right. So my academic background, particularly the theoretical HRIS implementation project I led, instilled a deep appreciation for data integrity and accuracy. In that project, I was responsible for strategizing the data migration of over about 1,000 simulated employee records.
Goodness.
Yes, there's quite a lot. This involved meticulous data entry and verification, cross-referencing information across multiple hypothetical source systems to ensure 100% accuracy before the actual go live date. We did it under the pressure of a non-negotiable project deadline, which really put the pressure on, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I developed a quality assurance checklist to catch common areas, specifically around payroll details and also personal identifying information, as this is really important to get right when handling sensitive data. And during my simulated payroll audit, I had to quickly and accurately input complex pay data, deductions and tax codes into a spreadsheet model to identify potential compliance gaps. The pressure here was the need for quick analysis, as well as inputting with absolute accuracy. A small error in data would skew the entire audit result. I handled this by again working systematically, double checking all the figures against the source documentation and using Excel functions to flag any inconsistencies. I understand that in this role, I would be entering real, highly sensitive employee data into Jemijo's HRIS, every HR, if I recall correctly. My experience has taught me that the key to accuracy, even under pressure, is to follow strict procedure, always perform a double check, and remember the ethical and legal implications, GDPR, of the data I'm handling. I am confident in my ability to maintain accurate, secure records efficiently.
Thank you. We've talked a lot about the importance of accuracy in data. Can you tell me about a time that you made a mistake or encountered an error in your work, either academic or professional? How did you identify it? And then what steps did you take to correct it and maybe prevent it from happening again?
That's a very fair question. During a group project where we were compiling research data for a presentation on different HR metrics, I was responsible for collating and averaging some employee engagement survey results. And because I was rushing to meet the internal project deadline, I accidentally pulled data from the wrong column in the master spreadsheet for one of the key metrics, which skewed the average result downwards significantly. But I identified the error when another team member was reviewing the draft presentation slides. They questioned the surprisingly low engagement score for one department, as it contradicted some of the qualitative feedback we'd received. We paused and reviewed the source data and my calculations together. And then to correct it, I immediately recalculated the average using the correct column data and updated the presentation slides. And then to prevent it from happening again, I implemented a strict self-imposed double-checking process for any numerical data I input or use. I always cross-reference my final figures with the original source data and have a peer, if available, quickly check my methodology. And this experience has really reinforced the need for careful attention to detail, especially when dealing with data that could lead to important decisions, even in a simulated environment. Accuracy is paramount.
Thank you. It's always awful making mistakes, but it's how they're handled that's important. Sounds like you caught it early and did the right thing. So that's the end of the interview today. Would you accept the role if you were offered it? When would you be able to start, if so?
Yes, I would be pleased to accept the role. The interview today and meeting your team has confirmed my interest in joining Jemijo, and I think it would be a great opportunity for me if offered, and I'm available to start immediately.
That's great. We will we'll definitely let you know. Do you have any questions for me before we go?
Actually, yes. Could you tell me more about the current team and who I would be managed by?
Yes, of course. That's a good question. You'd be joining a people team of 9, which is split into 2 sub-teams, people operations and people development. You'd be working within people operations and reporting directly to me. I manage the day-to-day admin tasks, recruitment for the call centres, and support on complex employee relations cases. We're very busy, but we are a very supportive team.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask, I'm curious about some of the cases you might be currently working on and what the new people assistant would be expected to help with in the first 6 months or so.
course. In terms of current work, we're very focused on the high volume recruitment for our call centres, particularly as we head into our peak period. So you would be heavily involved in the end-to-end recruitment process, drafting adverts, shortlisting, helping run assessment centres, that sort of thing. We're also currently working on a project to audit all employee contracts following the Harper Trust versus Brazil ruling we discussed earlier. So your expertise there would be really useful in supporting data analysis and implementation of the new policy. Additionally, you'd be helping with general admin tasks like processing starters and leavers, updating the HRIS with accurate employee data, and assisting with basic payroll queries. Essentially, in your first 6 months, you'd gain exposure to all the core operational elements of our team here at Jemijo. Did you have any more questions?
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again for your time today. It was a pleasure getting to know you. We will let you know the outcome by the end of the week.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.